There you go. Recording's in progress. So welcome once again, everybody, on our little talking panel. All us TASA people. We run through that every week. We're all a member of TASA, which is Australia States Assemblies. It's a great place to be. And that's the common denominator with this group. But it's not all we talk about. We're likely to talk about anything. So, Sarah, what are we going to talk about today? Let's.
Oh, goodness. Well, our word of the day is prosperity.
Yep.
Seemed a bit fitting this week. We're going to talk little bit about fee schedules, and then there's a couple of things we could talk about actually, because there was some stuff that I think I shared with you and maybe Sue, talking just a little bit about what's going on in the world at the moment. And I know the big thing for everyone is fuel, 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 fuel. But there's something else that comes out of Iran, which I didn't know about, which is sulfur. And they use sulfur in so many things, and people can't get it at the moment. So there's going to be a lot of things, not just fuel, that we're going to be short of. So I thought we might touch a little bit on that. And then the other thing was, bear with me just a second, if we get time, and we may not because it's a pretty full-on thing today. There's something about talking about the military's briefing pastors. Oh, yeah. Militaries officials are briefing pastors and their religious leaders primarily for societal stability and narrative management for when we start to get interdimensional entities popping up in our lives. So
Okay.
I thought we could talk about that, but if Fred's not here, we might not do that one today. That might be a next week job.
Yeah. All right. Well, there is heaps of stuff. Um,
And then Anna's stuff. I don't know if I touched on that. Anna's stuff. She wrote about, I don't know, 2 dozen documents this last week.
I didn't count them. I think I read them all, but yeah, you would have had a busy week if you've gone through all of them. Yeah,
Much.
but we will get to that. So we might just have a quick talk about the Tony Talks update. Has everybody heard about the Grey Pope? Does everybody know who the Grey Pope is? Okay, well, pardon me. I didn't know either. I've heard of a white Pope and a black Pope. Apparently, there's a Grey Pope, and his name is Pepe Orsini. I don't know whether that's a familiar name. I've heard it come up many times in my research, along with quite a few other names that you'd probably recognise.
One of the 13 bloodlines, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm, yeah.
And I spoke. I actually spoke to a friend of mine in Perth yesterday, and she was at that meeting that we had, Ray, Diana, and
Ah, yes.
she's Italian heritage. And when I mentioned it to her, and she looked it up, she said, "Oh, yeah, very famous family, very famous family." But anyway, he's apparently known as the Great Pope, very high up in the world in the scheme of things. Let's just leave it at that. According to now, Tony Talks, of course, is Tony on Ireland, the coordinator on Ireland, and he has I think it's a weekly chat. And I stumbled on it the other morning when I was on my way to work, so I listened to it. And he mentioned this, and that he talked to Anna about it, and she was most happy. But apparently, Pepe Orsini has a $300 trillion budget, and he's the bloke that is behind Serco and does all the pays for the governments and police and everything. And that makes him a busy man, because I know, because I do the pays where I work, and I pay about 12 people, and that takes me all day. So I sincerely hope he's had some help with that. Because, but anyway, long
Perhaps he uses zero or mild.
Yes,
Long story.
he must be quite influential because I do remember seeing a photo of him, Pepe Orsini once, and his hand was being kissed by the then Pope. So
Yeah,
that'll tell
right.
you where he stands in the scheme of things.
Yeah, righto. Well, I've never had my hand or any other part of my body kissed by the Pope. But um, so what happened to Pepe Orsini is that he's been arrested. Uh, and he's been arrested apparently because um, there's about roughly 100 medical technologies that are being withheld from all of us. And he's the man that could make sure that they got distributed, and he's been asked to distribute them. And apparently he made the comment that why would I do that? That would only save lives, and we're busy trying to take lives, really. And so they arrested him for crimes against humanity.
Arrested by who, mate? The people who he pays?
You're just like Sarah. Sarah asked me some questions as well, and I won't tell you what I sent her. I didn't have the ability to ask Tony on Tony Talks who got him and where they put him, and has he been interrogated, and did he get bail, and all of those things that run through your mind. I didn't. So I don't know. In answer to your question, I have no idea. But Tony and Anna both have a great deal of credibility. So you would like to think that it's true. But in light of your question and Sarah's questions, we don't really know, do we? So, but it's an interesting piece of news. If he was on the chessboard and he got knocked out and you were the opposition, you'd be fairly happy. So
I wonder if Evo, if we asked Evo, whether he'd be able to find out through his PKTF contacts. Because you'd think that they'd have a bit of a clue.
he might be able to do a welfare check on him.
Is he okay? God damn it, we don't want him to be okay.
Yeah, that's Orsini. ORSI. We could ask. Yeah.
Well, he might be able to squirrel out some information, so we could ask that, see if we can find out something for us.
Yeah,
Because
all right.
everyone wants to know a little bit of info.
But anyway, it's like a lot of stuff, there's for the last 6 or 7 years, something's been going to happen next week or next month. A lot of it still hasn't happened, though. And we're still talking about it. It just gets recycled. And this story might be the same. It might get recycled in 6 months. He might get arrested again, or who knows. But anyway, it's an interesting bit of news, and we don't really know, but came from a fairly good source. So that's my take on that. Don't really know. I actually would like to know more. But, yeah.
Well.
So what else has been going on around the world? There's that's interesting about the sulfur, what you were saying before. I know they were talking not only petrol, they were or fuel, they were talking fertilizer.
Well, there's fertilizer, there's now hang on, let me just find it again. I've got to go back here.
Too late about that because I was behind by a couple of weeks getting my garden up and ready, and I needed sulfur to make the potatoes not rot. Sometimes you plant them and they rot. I got hold of some, and the potatoes went in a couple of days ago, so I'm up to speed.
All right, so you managed to buy sulfur.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Oh, you've got some very lucky potatoes there.
Well, the other thing too is so it's this whole thing I'm just reading things out here. So everyone's watching oil, but no one's watching sulfur.
Okay.
It's one of those boring industrial inputs that quietly hold the world together. You need it because modern industry runs on it. Sulfur is used to make sulfuric acid, one of the most important industrial chemicals on Earth. Think of sulfuric acid as the solvent, cleaner, and processing agent that helps turn raw materials into usable products. It's used to make fertilizer. It's used to separate metal from rock. Manufacturers use it in everything from batteries to chemicals to refined fuels. Every economy needs sulfur and the industrial chemicals it helps create, and China manufactures 45% of the world's industrial chemical supply. It imports much of the sulfur it needs from the Persian Gulf, turns it into industrial chemicals used in mining, agriculture, and manufacturing, and then sells them to the rest of the world. So China's access to raw material it needs to produce the chemicals depends on it not becoming compromised, which of course it is because the Strait of Hormuz is threatened or closed. Blah, blah, blah. China runs short on sulfur, chemical production falls, foreign buyers are pushed to the back of the line as Beijing has less to share with the global economy. Mining companies in Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia, and here I guess, lose access to the chemicals they need to produce metal, and then the price of everything that depends on those metals starts to rise. So, Democratic Republic of Congo, it's being told to, because it is the world's largest producer of cobalt and the second largest producer of copper. So for cobalt, it's responsible for roughly 70% of the planet's output. Now, if you think about that, the numbers matter because copper is the lifeblood of electrification. If it needs electricity, it needs copper, a lot of it. Losing production capacity from a major regional copper producer right now is not a minor problem. It's a structural one. Cobalt's in the battery of every smartphone, laptop, and electric car on the planet. It's also in jet engines, military superalloys, and medical isotopes used to treat cancer patients. None of those uses has working substitutes at scale. So if the Democratic Republic of Congo slows down, those dominoes fall too. To get the copper and cobalt out of the ground, miners don't just dig up the rock. They then have to dissolve the metal out of the rock using industrial chemicals, mostly sulfuric acid and something called sodium metabisulfate. Think of those chemicals as the soap that washes metal out of dirt. So when China starts cancelling exports or repricing whatever supply remains, the impact is immediate. Consultants are now advising Congolese mining companies to ration what they have left and to slow production. Chile is the world's largest copper producer, Indonesia, the world's largest nickel producer, Peru, the third largest copper producer, Zambia, Africa's second largest copper producer. Every one of them runs on these Chinese chemicals, and every one of them is seeing orders slowed down, cancelled, or repriced. So, it's just, I think we need to kind of think about these things because it's not what they're saying. I mean, it's a really good article and it goes on to say a lot of other things. And it's saying that, okay, we should have things here. We should be able to do things here. We should be able to, make our own cars and do our own chemicals and all the rest of it. And most of the world could, going back 50 years. One, the knowledge has been lost. Two, the actual the infrastructure has been lost. Three, because this global interconnectivity has become so entrenched and so intertwined, kind of what affects one part of the world affects all of the world. And I mean, we know here we've just put copper rods in our garden. And thanks, Larry, because our plants are all like a foot higher. It's great. But that's going to start running short soon. And that's just one thing. But then if you think about fertilizer and all of the other things that we use all this metal for, and just the fact that sulfur is not going to be available, I'm just I don't want people to panic or freak out or anything like that, but just try and think a little bit ahead, like 12, 18 months ahead, and try and put some redundancy in place, get a little bit of extra stuff. Don't stockpile like your life depends on it, but just be mindful that it's not just the obvious stuff, it's the not obvious stuff.
There's no sulfur in toilet paper, is there? We don't have to stockpile.
No. Should be right with that.
Okay. Just
Should be
check
okay with that.
it. Check it. You done that, see? Yeah, it's just one thing after another, isn't it? It's fuel, it's sulfur, there's so much to be scared of. You know, I'm I'm sort of over it, so I've decided not to be scared of any of it because that's probably the best way to go. I mean, I'm not stupid either, but you know,
But boy, oh boy, did that so many things to unpack from what Sarah said. So many things went through my mind. Firstly, she reminded me that I was back in year 12 classroom teaching chemistry when she was doing all the sulfur stuff and the this and that and the sulfuric acid. Secondly, the Congo, very, very important source of material for the West. The Congo alone probably funded Europe's prosperity because the Belgian king killed 20 million. I'll say it again, you heard correctly, 20 million people murdered there that, of course, Western media will never tell you. 20 million people killed. And what about all the rapes that the military had done over there? The list is endless, but that I'll go to later in my Telegram channel. Thirdly, yeah, all of this is not by accident. That all fits. It's all to do with scarcity, to do with plans that they have, and to continue to justify why they do these things. And some people believe it. Um, Hopefully not much more, but a lot of people will believe the lies that they say, just like I'm seeing lies on the TV to justify why everyone's in Iran. I yield.
so true. You cannot believe everything you hear or everything you read.
Mm.
All right, well that's enough. Woe is me about the world. I don't think we should have gone there. It's not a good look, is it?
I think it doesn't hurt just to be aware. I mean, I don't think we have to be frightened of it. I think we just need to be aware that, okay, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being a little bit prepared and just kind of going, yeah, okay, we might need to think about this or we might need to think about that. Because it's very easy to get locked into what you get shoved at you all the time. Fuel, 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 oil, 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 and forget about all of the other stuff. And forget about the fact that, people over there are living and dying and whatever. And to forget about the fact that we actually do have a lot of power right in ourselves, to kind of create the world we want. So it's about being smart and being prepared and learning to kind of look past the narrative, to pull the curtain back and go, what's really going on here and how's that really going to affect us? And to not get distracted, because we could be distracted by a hantavirus if we really
Oh,
want to be.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'd rather know than not know. No matter how uncomfortable it is, I'd rather know than not know. Where
Yeah,
I can do something about it, I do something about it. Where I can't,
yeah.
God in control. I can't argue with that. I,
well, that's right, Ray. And in your case, you're going to either have to go and buy another box of sulphur for next year's potato crop or not put any in at all. I mean, now's the time. Now's the time to
Yeah.
decide.
You want copper for
how
your
many
electro gardening?
things
Do it now.
How many things have I made over the years? I used to freak my mother out by bringing home all the stuff I used to make in the university chemistry lab and bring it home. I only threw them out 18 months ago. I had them since 1990. I remember I came home with copper sulfate and I threw White King inside. My mum said, why? I said, to make copper tetraamine from the ammonia. That was in
Oh,
1990. Then when I went back in 2008, it had gone back from blue to green, back to blue. And I showed my mum, I said, do you remember this just before Dad died in 1990? Yeah. I said, look, it's changed color. And then I explained to her. Yeah, it's fun. I'm a nerd from way back, I do.
Look at Sue's face. She's a mum and she's going, if my child kept a chemistry experiment for 20 years in his bedroom.
yeah.
I've heard
Got
about
it.
spontaneous combustion. I'm very wary.
Oh,
You've got to wonder whether Ray actually ever grew up, eh? Well,
no, no, no. I am. I say there's a time and a place for everything. I can be very serious and I can be playful. So that's just me. That's what makes me tick. You know, I can't lose. I've got born on Terra Australis. We've got the larrikin in us. My blood is Wellington. They've got a cheeky side to them as well and love jovial play and this and that. Then I got the serious side because I'm a teacher. Then there's a serious side because I come from a conservative upbringing. So you just
So
balance.
tell me, does the science experiment fit into the playful blow up stuff world side, or does it fit into the serious side?
If I wanted to blow up a lab, I could, but why would I? What would I gain from blowing up a lab? Like seriously, what would I gain from blowing up a lab?
Attention.
If attention for one thing, yeah.
No.
I can tell you now, if the need ever arises, I've got your number anyway. So
Or distraction, depending
right,
on how you want to
distraction.
look at it.
Depends who's in the lab. Let's face facts.
But all this comes in handy because if I'm making cosmetics or making soap and all of that, knowing formulae off the
Yeah.
top of my head makes it a lot easier to calculate concentrations and volumes and this and that. Don't have to go and, spend the whole day doing it. You just remember those basics. That's all you need.
There you go, kids. That's a really good reason to pay attention in chemistry class at school.
you
If you
never
want to
know
make
when
soup later on.
you never know when your skills might be needed, eh?
Right.
Okay. Let's go to the word of the day. The word of the
Prosperity.
day is a word we'd all be familiar with. We're all prosperous. The word is prosperity. Anybody do their homework?
I did.
Okay, you can lead off.
Very quickly, prosperity just basically means where you thrive, especially where fortune's concerned. I yield.
Okay.
Yeah, it's successful or thriving. And most people put it into economics or money. We think prosperity is money. But in actual fact, you can thrive without money. You can thrive if you've got, a really bountiful veggie garden and you've got enough food and you've got family and friends around you and you've got a great community. That's a really prosperous life. If you know that you've got friends and family and you know that you've got a network of people around you, that's prosperity. Okay, so I think we need to expand because I know the prosperity account is kind of a lot of people are equating that with, oh, thank God I can pay off my bills, which we can. I'm not taken away from that because I'm one of those people. But I do think that we need to remember that there's a bigger meaning, and prosperity really means to thrive. And it doesn't matter how much money you have in the world, it doesn't necessarily mean you are thriving. And
And
you just have to look at Hollywood or, you know, any of the people that are doing the stuff to the rest of the world. I wouldn't want to be in their skins. They are not very happy individuals, I wouldn't think.
I was going
So,
to say, I was going to say the same thing. Prosperity doesn't mean happiness.
no,
They're two different things.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
big difference there. Everyone's hanging out for a, let's say, prosperity account, but doesn't mean happiness.
No.
So to be clear.
So, yeah.
I think it feeds into our like the psyche that's been conditioned into us to look at the world through a lack lens, when in reality we live on an abundant earth. So, and therefore we should all be prosperous. You would think on an abundant earth where everything is freely supplied, that it would be impossible not to be prosperous. So it sort of is a way of understanding how they've manipulated the entire world to believe that there is such a thing as lack, made us rely on systems where they can turn spigots on and off at will to create lack. And the current political situation with oil is no different. Like they've turned off the spigot of supply. This one will be a big one simply because it's going to be if they open the Strait of Hormuz today, then the ships that come through, it's going to be 3 months before they reach some of their destinations. So in the middle there's going to be a probably 10, 12 week lack anyway. So we will be looking at shortages of these things because that's already in play. And again, where there is no lack. Yeah, but the only thing we lack is the political will to get to have these people who consider themselves masters in control and to realise we're the masters. We have to take control of our own destinies, realise we have an abundant earth and learn to prosper with that.
Yeah.
Well, we're on our way, Sue, I think. I looked at prosperity a different way. I looked it up in Black's Law Dictionary. Well, I got my friend AI to look it up in Black's Law Dictionary. In the broader framework of Black's Law Dictionary, prosperity is often linked to the public welfare or the convenience of the public at large. This distinguishes it from the private advantage of an individual or a limited class of people, framing it instead as a collective benefit for the whole community. So they're sort of saying it's a collective thing. So they've got macroeconomic focus. It measures the health of a nation or state through employment and income levels. Public interest. It is synonymous with the well-being of the community as a whole. And economic stability. It is characterised by the balance between low unemployment and manageable inflation. And with that, I shall screw that bit of paper up and throw it right away. It's meaningless bullshit. Okay, we've pretty much covered that. So prosperity, it could be a state of mind, or it could be that your mind won't let you go there. But it's not all about the money, that's for sure. Where would we like to go now, Sarah? Let me know when you would like to start on the Anna stuff. We can't do it too early because Alan will go home. But we can't leave it too late either.
Well, we could cover off the fee schedule because we've still got to do that. That's the last sort of the main tranche of documents. And then next week we could cover off, we'll just do the property documents as a one and done, like we put the property documents all together. And then after that, we're sort of done with the documents, although there is that one that's coming out that's Mookie and Judgy are working on at the moment that every reconveyed individual should, or state national, should send off to Jim Chalmers and Penny Wong. So we could maybe touch on that a little bit, but we'll do the fee schedule to start with. So
I didn't know about the new document, so that's the first I've heard of it. But
okay.
I'll try and keep up Wayne, mate. Everyone's been talking about it.
Yeah, I am showing my my lack of well, I haven't been doing my homework, mate. I'm sorry.
Anna put something out, mate. One of the things I read, and but then it was still in the United States language in there, or referencing them and not Terra Australis, and so we're waiting on, I believe, to be changed. That was the last time I saw something. By you, is that about right, Sarah?
Yes, last I saw it was the same. We're still waiting on the Australianising of it.
Very good. Well, I'm waiting on that too. Now that I know about it,
I'm pretty sure we could do that ourselves.
We've got to come up with the actual, because it refers. Okay, so all right, we'll do it this way. Mookie and in the Anna docs, there's a template that she's put out, which is a letter to the Secretary of State and the Treasurer on America. So that would be Mark Rubio and Scott Bessant. Now, these are the people that are responsible for administering the Sedicate trusts and dissolving them, and then restoring all of our estate to us as nationals. Okay. And when I say us, I'm talking about the American ones. And the problem is that anyone that has been in TASA for a while, you know that something might work for me, but it won't work for the next person. So I might write a letter off to Vic Roads and say, right, I'm not doing registration or licensing anymore, but my neighbour, who's also a state national, will send them something and they might say, yep, to me, that's fine. You don't have to have a license or rego, but the next person will say, no, you're not allowed to do that. Some people with councils, they're being left alone, others are not. In America, specifically, some people have what they call a mochi process, which is a mutually offset credit exchange exemption. So that means that GovCo will say, you owe us $167 for rates. And you say, well, you owe me $13 million. So how about we offset your $167 against the $13 million that you owe me? And that means that you now only owe me 12,990 whatever thousand. And that's how it's supposed to work. And in some cases, that has actually worked, but in other cases, it has not worked. So what Anna's done, she's like, this is ridiculous. We've done a template saying this is your job. We are state nationals. It's your job to sort out this stuff. It's your job to cause exemption from all of your statutes and acts over there because we're not part of your game anymore. Fix it. And she uses the American remedy. So which is written into their court, their law, constitution, whatever. We don't have that remedy, I don't think. So that's why Judgy and Mookie, I believe, are doing the research to find out which Australian GovCo remedy works for us. There will be a remedy. We've just got to figure out what it is. So I think that's where they're at. And once we know what that is, we will absolutely send those letters. So that's what we're working on, or that's what's being worked on at this moment. But once that comes out, we'll let everyone, just keep your eye open because it's on Mookie's Telegram channel. So he'll let you know. I yield.
You'll give me a call, Al, when that comes out, will you? Let me know.
Yeah, mate, you'll be the first person I'll send it
to. Yeah. Good on you. Thanks, mate. Ray.
A couple of weeks back, I was on a webinar call with Neville from over east about the accepted for value or whatever you want to call it, and that was interesting, and got hold of some documents and how to go about it. Because I had watched Bill Turner's videos way back, and this sort of like helped bring it up to modern time and speed and this and that. So I wonder if Mookie and Judgy are following a very similar process. I yield.
Don't know. But anyway, so that's that particular document. Fee schedule.
Yes.
So I'll do this one. Well, I'll start off anyway. So fee schedule, and if anyone anyone that's a reconveyed state national will have looked at that fee schedule and they'll have gone, these prices can't be right. And they are right. They're meant as a deterrent so that people don't try and harass us once we've handed them a fee schedule. So the theory being, if I'm correct here, and Sue, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the theory being, say, Mr. Police Officer comes along and says, I want to give you a fine. You get into a discussion with him. You would hand him a fee schedule and you'd say, well, okay, I'm only going to enter into discussion with you once you accept this, you enter into a contract with me, and they're my prices. And if he takes it, then yes. And generally speaking, we're going to be nice about it. And we'll say, and he'll look at it and go, oh, okay, look, just have a nice day and be on your way. Probably a better argument is to send it to your local council and say, I've reconveyed, here's all my notices, here's my NARG, blah, blah, blah. Here's my fee schedule. This is what it's going to cost you if you actually engage with me. And on there, it's got administration costs and it's got time taken for paperwork, and every time you use my person name without my permission, and all these other things. And so what happens is the theory goes that once you've sent your fee schedule, if they continue to harass you, you reply, but you put an invoice on your documentation and you say, okay, it's taken me this long to actually deal with your paperwork that you've sent me. It's taken me an hour. So for that, here's an invoice for $50,000. Thank you, payable within 30 days. And you send that off. And if you send that, and they'll come back to you, and if you continue to send the invoice and it goes up each time, because more time, billing more hours. And then after you've sent them that invoice 3 times, you theoretically can then, because they haven't paid it, you can then have a lien taken out on them. And once you take out a lien on a public officer, that then affects their bank account because you're taking it out against the individual. You're not taking it out against the council. You're taking it out against the individual. And once any public officer has 2 liens taken out on them, they have to step down. And we saw evidence of this because Cal Washington's crowd was doing this in the early days of COVID. And remember when all the premiers all stood down in the same 3 weeks? It was really weird. And they all resigned. Like Dan Andrews was like, I'm resigning today. And he went. And, Anastasia did the same thing, and what's his name in WA did the same thing. They all did it. And that was because they'd had all of these liens taken out against them by the Cal Washington crowd. So they couldn't stand for office. So we have a fee schedule and also when we get going with our assembly, if we choose to serve on an assembly, we get paid, not the amounts on the fee schedule, but we actually get paid. So the fee schedule is to show that we are an active member of the assembly and that we are a state national, and we now are charging to have discussions and dealings with GovCo. So that's why the fee schedule. I yield.
Very good. Very good rundown on the fee schedule. What happens, I wonder, if you get pulled up and you just pass that to the constable? If he doesn't take it, if he takes it, he's been served, really, hasn't he? He's accepted it. What happens if he just, mate, no, don't want to know nothing about that? And I suppose I would just, when he gives me a ticket, I'll say, oh, no, mate, don't want to know nothing about that. Does that work both ways or what? Anybody?
Can I jump? I'll jump in there. I've practiced it, but I haven't had to use it. But in my spiel that I have is that if you wish me to contract, I'll have obviously got the fee schedule in my automobile. If you wish to contract, here it is, and I have highlighted some things. This is what it will cost you because I have informed you that I'm no longer in your jurisdiction. So therefore, these are the costs. If you wish to proceed by giving me a ticket, these will be the costs that will be incurred by you because this is my fee schedule. So I'm explaining it to them, through talking, without actually him taking it. And then he contracts by proceeding because I've advised him of the situation. And then if he proceeds, he's contracting. That's how in my spiel, I'm doing it anyway. I yield.
Well, I didn't come here today thinking I'd learn something from you, Alan, but there you go.
If you have, sorry, mate, but if you're happy, interestingly enough, at our meeting last Sunday, I gave a demonstration of my spiel because I work on it all the time. And if you're happy for me, just to give you if I get pulled up, the first thing I say is, can we agree that we'll both talk to each other calmly and respectfully? That's how I want to start it. Because if he breaks that, I'll talk calmly and respectfully. But if he breaks that, we'll say, and it's recorded. So listen, because you want to have a calmful and respectful conversation. So that's how I start it. I yield.
Yeah, that's very good, actually.
Mm.
I like that because I carry some paperwork in my car as well, but I never go through what I would say because in the back of my mind I'm thinking, if I think about this, I'll bring it on. So, nah, not going there in my mind. But yeah, I'll put some more thought into that. I might make a few notes as well. Yeah, but it is, it's a good idea to have a plan like
It's not.
that. So,
I was going to say it's not a bad idea, and particularly you've got Clinton and Ben up there who have gone out and sought interactions like this. It might not be a bad idea to get them to do a couple of role plays with the assembly, Wayne.
yeah, I will think on that. I'd have to ring them and get them to turn up at an assembly, those two chaps, but it would probably be a worthwhile exercise to get them along there.
They'd
But
probably do it for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
they would. Yeah.
Yeah. But it just to let and you could, do it as a bigger sort of assembly and get people along. But yeah, certainly make use of the experience because they would run through and they'd be able to do it properly. And
Yeah.
talk about like give a sense of realism to it because as I said, they've both been through it numerous times.
Yeah.
And then, if someone was brave enough to record it, that might be useful for everyone.
I'll record it.
So, yeah, just a thought.
Yeah. Just take a note of that because that would be a very handy thing, even with the newbies, even an hour like the hour before the General Assembly when we're dealing with the newbies and say, well, no, here's an example of how you might deal with this, like doing the paperwork and joining TASA doesn't automatically solve that whole heap of problems. It just changes how you deal with those problems that come up, and it's probably a good idea to be aware of it. So yeah, I might do that.
This is a recorder. I got two of these. One to put in the car and one to wear around the place. It records video and audio, and that's not just if you're in your automobile, but if you're walking in the street, you can wear it on you. So just in case you have an altercation or something, you can hide it and it still takes picture and audio. It was on eBay. It wasn't that expensive, I yield.
Yeah, okay.
Well, did it look very big though, Ray? Is it bigger than a phone or
No, it's small. You can easily put it in your pocket or inside a jacket. Yeah.
and it records reasonable quality?
Reasonable quality audio and video. Yeah.
Have you tried it out or?
Not yet, but I plan to.
Yeah, okay.
I've got a pen that works well, but you charge it. You don't. It's one of these things you don't carry with you all the time. Just if you think you're going to be going somewhere, you can actually put it in your pocket, and it works as a pen as well. So it's good if you happen to be going. You're going somewhere like to Port, for example.
Sounds like
Yeah.
Get Smart. Do you remember that program, Get Smart?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about your pen, Alan. What about it? If you hand it to the policeman and say, can you just sign this for him? So careful, don't hold the top of it, you'll cover the camera.
Yeah. Can you speak more loudly while you're talking into the top of it?
What was that again? Oh, dear, dear.
Anyway.
But just back on that fee schedule, I think it's one of the, all the documents obviously important and they've got their place, but the fee schedule for me it's a cracker because it's what sort of finishes, it sort of just really is the hitting home part of the documents because that gives it that power. And, we don't expect anyone to pay it. Well, it would be nice if they did, but it's what puts them in the hot seat. So that's, I think it's great.
I think the biggest problem with the fee schedule is we don't know how to use it properly. I think that's the biggest issue with it. We have not used it the way we should and to the full power that it could be used.
Yeah, I think it's at a roadside stop. It's got more effect. You don't want to give him a piece of paper that shows him how you got reconveyed and try and explain to him what reconveyance is. You're giving him the bit that affects him, showing him that bit. The rest of it, you can prove later. But yeah, I carry it in my car. But now I'm going to have to practice what I'm going to say. But that won't be too hard. I'll get through that. Very good. What do you reckon, Sarah? Do you want to launch into?
Yep. Well, may as well start it because it's going to be a while. I'll try and make it as quick as I can. So we finished off last week for the next 3 weeks and are wanting us to basically visualize what we want or what our heart wants. Give me the joy of my heart in love. Okay, so that we can bring all these good things to us. Then, pretty much the next day, she puts out an international notice, hands off Mr. Trump, and saying that Donald Trump was born in Bavaria, which means he is ineligible to be president of the United States of America, which is true. You've got to be American born. He is only able to be the president of the LLC, it's the Limited Liability Corporation, pretending to be the American government. Whatever republic he is claiming to have restored, it's not the American one. Then the next international notice, she gives us a little history. So when he lost the war in heaven, Satan was cast down to earth and landed in the sea, which he reigns. He reigns over the sea jurisdiction. All of the statutes and acts that govern us come from the sea jurisdiction. Commerce law comes from the sea jurisdiction. Then, this is the really interesting part, the dictionary that enshrines maritime jurisdiction or sea jurisdictional law, Black's Law Dictionary, started out as a parody. It was a joke. It was a satirical document written by someone black about the encroachment of sea jurisdiction into the land courts back in the day. So when they started to creep in, the Black's Law Dictionary was written up as a joke, like, the articles written on Facebook now. Then the Bar Association, bunch of criminals, got hold of it and enshrined it as law. And so it became law just because they sort of said it was. The authors and editors of the original Black's Law Dictionary came clean and confessed, but it was too late by then to take it back because the bar was running with it. The criminal cartel then used the dictionary to commit more and more egregious crimes. Recently, King Charles handed back English maritime law that was being used in the US. So he went over to the US, as we know, made his big trip, and packaged up maritime law, finalised that on America. And he said, okay, we're going to take it. Here you go. You're in charge. But really, all he did was hand over maritime law, saying, well, okay, you can't use English maritime law, but go ahead with American maritime law. It's the same cake with different icing. So unless law of the land comes back into being, land contracts will not exist, only maritime contracts. And maritime contracts can be twisted any which way in order to perpetrate fraud. Land contracts are between two living beings who are aware of all of the conditions they are agreeing to. So they do a handshake and they discuss and whatever. That's a land contract. Maritime contracts, the way they're written, it's all shonky because it's according to this Black's Law Dictionary. It was written as a joke to start with. And she's ordering corporations to stop pretending to be governments. Do we have any comments so far?
No, except that this is the one that I read just for so you know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, good.
The Black's Law Dictionary.
So far you haven't learned anything.
No.
But pay attention from here on.
Right, good.
Okay, so the next one is an international notice. And I've put the titles in this time because these are international notices that she's sending out to GovCo. Okay, and this is what she's titled it: To the Greedy Guts. The assets being taken back do not belong just to Americans, they belong to the world. All countries have suffered loss under the criminals, and just because it's an American who realised and woke up to the fraud doesn't mean that it's only Americans get to profit from the assets being returned to the people. Also, stay far away from QFS. It's another fake scheme to defraud people out of their true inheritance. So when she writes these international notices, she's not writing them in legalese. She's just writing them so that people understand it, and she explains everything and talks about it. So I want to let people know that we need on this country to start writing notices to GovCo, and they don't have to be all wordy and not understandable. They can be just straight writing, okay? Just telling people what you want done. So the next notice is from Grana, and it's about our angelic mission. The warrior angels, of which she is one, have almost finished with phase 1, started in 2012 with the arrival of the Andromedan fleet to arrest the criminals and take them into custody or remove them from Earth. And that actually is verified by another completely separate source, which I'm not going to talk about now, but that's not the first time I've heard that. Phase 2 of the mission is about to begin, restoration of Earth. Angels have passed on their immortality to humans, so when someone dies, their soul, who they are, us, remain as we know them, here, waiting for us on the other side of the veil. Victory is here, we have won, but don't be prideful. Instead, find gratitude for the amazing world we live in. International notice, if it's not good for everyone, it's just not good. Someone has been trying to pull, and I put someone, has been trying to pull a fast one on the Philippines royal family and tell them that they must release the gold that they are safekeeping for the Americans or their bloodline will be wiped out. Basically, that's all fake, false, and phony. True God does not threaten or bully, and anyone pretending to be, I'm reading through the subtext here, anyone pretending to be Anna is going to have to watch out. Then another international notice, there's a proven cure for cancer, which most people now know is caused by parasites. Ivermectin, fenbendazole, and mebendazole all cure cancer by killing parasites. Government and the Pope all need to be slapped around the ears for allowing Big Pharma to knowingly kill us. For a source of ivermectin and fenben, most people might be aware that you can get paste at your local, usually like your stock feed place for horses and cows and stuff.
Doesn't taste very good though.
Sorry?
It doesn't taste very good.
No, it doesn't. If you want another source that's far more palatable and in tablet form, reach out to Wayne or I privately, because we can put you in touch with someone. I'm not going to put it up here.
No.
Okay, where are we? Not even halfway through. Then she puts out a very short little thing. I'm going to read the whole thing, and it's the nature of law. Law serves to condemn you. In the warrior's code, there is no surrender. There is love or there is law. Choose. That's it. Then there's an international public notice, and it's called the No More List. So she talks about Peter Thiel and his friends just launching another crypto coin, which is going to save the world, but it's actually, not. And she just says, we're not doing this anymore. We're just not doing this anymore. And then she does this massive list. Here is a non-exhaustive list of all of the things that will not be occurring moving forward. So all of the fraud, all of the deception, all of the trickery, all of the lies, all of the killing, all of the everything. We need to fix it once and for all. You are all on notice for being scumbags. That last bit's mine. Not the notice part, but the rest of it. Then we do Grana. She talks about St. Crown activation, the false start that happened there, and a lot of people would be aware that the St. Crown exchange thing. Basically, there were some clerical errors in the St. Crown paperwork that need to be sorted out. Everyone at the Federation level, which is where Anna's working, so Anna, Harold, Shannon, a couple of people like that, they're all going to be paid last. So because they are working at the Federation, so it goes state nationals, then countries, then assemblies and people on the assemblies. So assemblies, then people on the assemblies, and then the people behind that. So it'd be local assemblies, national, blah, blah, blah. She's Federation. They're going to get paid last. And she said they're currently running on a shoestring, sometimes going hungry, literally. People have been sick, life has happened. They're trying their very best to get things moving as fast as they can, but just try and be patient because sometimes things go a bit wrong. Then the next one, this is a Grana one, and it's called the open gate. And the reason she calls it this is because at the back of our neck, most people would be aware of a hollow that we have there near the atlas bone of the head. And that is actually where we get a lot of, if you're at all woo or spiritual, we get a lot of knowledge through there. That's actually quite an important point in the body. But what she describes is how very small, gentle, and you'll remember, for those of you that have listened before, she did a talk last week, I think, on the importance of hugging and kissing, and how very healing both of those things can be. So this one describes how little, small, gentle, chaste kisses up along the shoulder blade, across the back of the neck, down the other shoulder blade, and then across the front makes someone feel really warm and loved and protected. Okay, so she just wants to let people know that that can happen. And we come back to that a little bit later. Then the next one is Grana, and it's a thank you back from Africa. It has a link to a YouTube channel which plays music to help you reclaim your power. She discusses the need for all of us to ground, to reclaim energy which we may have loaned or given away in the past when someone needed it, but now they don't need it anymore. And we should be taking that back. Not horribly, we just call it in. We say, all right, I need my energy back here. And she touches on the power of crystalline energy as well, as in literal, like aventurine and onyx and stuff like that. The next Grana is, so you're an earth angel, now what? Oh, and I listened to some of that YouTube African music, which she said, she talked about the seals that we undid quite a few years ago now, like spiritually, the same as the seals we did in Greece and somewhere else. But to let that power that was supposed to flow through, like on the Earth meridians, to Africa was all stopped and dammed up and was sent to Europe instead. So we broke those seals and it's sent through to Africa. And Africa now is really starting to rise, which is great. It's, in a good way, and it's really good. So you're an earth angel, now what? The job of the warrior angels to round up and remove the last of the fallen from the planet, is almost done. The next phase, restoration, is about to start, and that will be carried out by the teacher, healer, artist, visionary, and messenger angels. Okay, so that's literally about to start kicking off because they're very close to rounding up the last of the fallen, which are the angels that went with Satan or whatever. Then this next one, it's a little bit weird. I think she's talking about having faith. I think she's talking about just having faith and really coming back to what you know in your heart. So the way I summarized it, because it's called Joshua and Caleb, not Moses and Aaron. Does anyone want a rundown of who Joshua and Caleb and Moses and Aaron are that she's talking about? Yes, no?
I'm all confused about that stuff, but somebody else might like a rundown.
Moses, of course, we know who he is. Aaron was Moses's brother, and he was from the tribe of Levi, which is where we get the book of Leviticus. And he was the first Levitical priest. So the priesthood comes from the line of Levi rather than the tribe of Judah, which is where the Jews come from. As for Joshua, yes, he was one of the judges. Who was the other chap?
Caleb.
Never heard of him.
Okay.
Need a rundown on him.
So if I talk about the 12 spies, does that make sense?
No, but...
No? All right. I'll read, because I didn't know either. So I went into AI and asked AI I asked, where is it? No. Don't tell me I've lost it. Gosh darn. Hang on, it might be on the other one. Is it this one? Oh, hang on, here we go. Right. Joshua and Caleb and Moses and Aaron aligned together during the crisis following the spy mission, standing against the majority of the Israelites who were filled with fear and rebellion. When 10 spies delivered a negative report about the promised land, remember that's the land of milk and honey, the entire Israelite congregation panicked and threatened to stone Joshua and Caleb for encouraging them to trust God's promise. In response, Moses and Aaron, remember Moses and Aaron and Joshua and Caleb were together. Moses and Aaron fell face down before the assembly in contrition and entreaty, while Joshua and Caleb tore their clothes and pleaded with the people not to rebel against the Lord. So you've got an angry mob over here saying, God lied. Moses and Aaron go, yeah, we're really sorry, don't hurt us. And Joshua and Caleb stood there and said, nah, no, he didn't. Just stop it. It'll be fine. Together, these four leaders stood as the only faithful voices against the collective unbelief of the nation, while the 10 faithless spies were struck down by a plague. So they came back and said, milk and honey doesn't exist. God lied. They all died, got struck down by a plague. The rest of the adult generation was condemned to die in the wilderness. Moses spoke to God and said, look, don't kill them, but they didn't have any faith, but don't kill them. So that resulted in a suspension of immediate destruction, but a 40-year wandering period in the desert. Joshua and Caleb were the only two adults from that generation permitted to enter the promised land due to their wholehearted faith. So that's the story of Joshua and Caleb. Now, go back to here. What she's saying is things are about to get a bit weird, okay? Don't stop questioning. Don't blindly believe what anyone tells you. Keep your wits about you. We are stepping into the age of Aquarius, which will also be called the age of miracles, but we still have to navigate the corruption that has flourished for thousands of years. I think what she's saying is have faith. Everything will be okay. Everything will be fine, but don't blindly follow. If people say, oh my God, there's going to be a war and we're all going to die and there's no fuel, don't go, oh my God. Go, well, okay, that's one way of looking at it, but let's just keep going and know that we'll be okay. All right. Then we go back to the kissing. Read the previous instruction on kissing the shoulders. Now, apparently quite a few people got upset with her for writing that. Most people in the Western world are literally starving for touch, and I would agree with this. Non-invasive, non-sexual touch. Few people actually understand how vital touch is for humans to exist or thrive, okay? And it is essential. It shows how hungry some people are for touch that they would perceive a basic healing process done between friends as a perversion. So she's basically slapping a few people around and saying, get a hold of yourself. But also she's not backing down about the fact that, and it's quite an interesting article because she brings in quite a lot of medical stuff and some scientific research and things like that to talk about how deprived of touch we are. And there was actually an interesting thing, and I'm going to digress here for a second. I saw this thing the other day, and it was a young guy talking to a group of older scholars. I'll call it that, doctors, scholars, whatever. And he said the population, like the birth population, is falling off a cliff. He said people are stopping, they're not having babies all over the world. And he said, yes, part of it's due to, other intervention, but he said apart from that, it's still falling off a cliff all over the world. And he blames AI because he said people don't touch anymore. He said, and this goes back to people go to clubs, young people, they go to clubs, but because everything is recorded, people have got their phones out, there's recordings everywhere, there's CCTV. He said guys are not approaching girls because if the guy approaches the girl and the girl dismisses him and he crashes out, he doesn't want that recorded. So he just doesn't even try because he just goes, nah. And guys and girls won't dance together because there's been this whole thing. Guys are like, oh, it's not good to dance and all the rest of it. I've got a whole theory on dancing together, but essentially this guy's saying because people aren't touching, that's why they don't know how to navigate relationships, and so they're not getting into relationships. So population is falling off a cliff. So a whole thing around touch, and we really do need to sort of start to bring things like that back into the public domain and to start to talk about this stuff. Anyway, then we talk about the template for individual demand for performance and correction, which we already discussed earlier in the call. Then we have that code that she put out before, and I'm going to repeat this again, literally as she's written it. The nature of law. Law serves to condemn you. In the warrior's code, there is no surrender. There is love or there is law. Choose. If you choose to love, you exist in love. If you choose to love, mercy is your judgment. If you choose law, you exist under judgment. If you choose law, you are condemned. Now, this is LAW law. Thus, I have told you, love is a decision. Love sets you free. Law can only bind you. Now, hear this. The macrocosm and the microcosm are one. There is no other, no actual internal or external. The ego is only a gateway that we open or close. So know this. When one of us changes, everything changes. When one of us chooses love, love is chosen. When love is chosen, life is chosen. When one of us chooses law, judgment is chosen. When judgment is chosen, death is chosen. It is as simple and as profound as these few words. You individually have the power to change creation. Do you choose love or law? Or will you let love become your law? One by one, we can resolve this seeming conundrum. The law of love is already set before you. Love all that is. Love each other. Love yourself. Decide. Will you live in the divine kingdom or die in a world of illusions? Grana. Then we come back to international notice, and she talks about humans, and she's saying that, you know, we've all been classed as humans, which is literally colour of man, hue of man. You are not human, you are alive. Wake up and reclaim your rights as living men and women, because as living men and women, we have far more rights than humans. The identity of the perpetual debtor. So the British Crown has been acting as the perpetual creditor, remembering that the British Crown gets 40% of your trust stuff, the Vatican gets 60%. So the British Crown has been acting as the perpetual creditor. The Holy Roman Empire's municipal corporations, so everything else, have been acting as the perpetual debtor. So while they call us the debtors through all of their bait and switch operations, but we are the ultimate creditors. They owe us all of it. And then we're moving now into Tartaria. We're talking, it's the international notice Indigenous claim of the blue bloods. So the blue veins that many of us see under our skin are a direct link to our heritage, which seems to be Tartarian. Now, she puts a link into a very interesting video, I'd have to say. A huge amount of history has been destroyed systematically on purpose to make everyone forget across just a few generations, and it is only about 5 generations, who we are and how we can be. The Visigoths / Tartarians had a great empire with immense knowledge and wisdom. We should probably try and remember who we really are. The reason their blood was blue was because they ate and drank from silver plates and cups, which turns your blood blue. The bad guys have spent literally 2,000 years covering up our history. Why is that? And that was the end of that particular set of subjects. I yield.
Very good. Ray's got his hand up there. You've got something to contribute, I feel.
Yes, I have to try and keep this to a minimum. Okay, just me. I'll say which is my opinion and which is objective fact. Number one, personally, yeah, I don't subscribe to this Aquarius New Age stuff. There were warnings about this from prophets that this is what's going to happen as time goes along and people become godless and forgetting that there's the one God. Secondly, this is a very, and like I said, I love Anna. Don't get me wrong. I love what she's done for everyone, including myself. So it's not a criticism. It's just me saying it sounds very Western in that thinking. And again, have to go back to Christianity is an Eastern religion from the Middle East. Now, we're not talking the counterfeit equivalent in Rome, where it's been hijacked by Freemasons. We're talking the original place of Christ's birth, Palestine. And by the way, with all the bombs and rubble and children killing and everything that's been happening recently, just this week, under the rubble, they found at the Eucharist, you know, the communion bread that's supposed to represent Jesus's body. Now, it's a real piece of bread, not a wafer. We're dealing with Christianity in the East now. That communion bread withstood the bombs and the rubble without mold, and it was recovered perfectly intact. Food for thought. Okay. The next thing, that business about the Israelites wandering in the desert, and I'm going to go into this for an entire webinar when I do my series. This is just to stimulate thinking here. The Israelites were given two commands before they could enter the Holy Land. One, you show faith in the Creator, the one Creator. Stop worshipping idols. All right, which is where Anna gets the idea that there are two gods in the Bible. There aren't, right? They were influenced by the pagans around them. You enter the Holy Land when you show faith to the one God. Thou shalt not have strange gods before me. Two, you will show righteous conduct. Until you do, they'll wander for 40 years in the desert being fed by manna from heaven. When they showed that, they entered. But God made it very, very clear in the original Bible, not this watered down King James, whatever, all this modern Western, imperialists changing the words around to justify conquests, because that's what it is, right? It's coming from the Vatican, as we know. All right. God says, if you violate these two commands, you will be expelled from the Holy Land. They did it, and God punished them with the Babylonian army that first time. They came back again. God punished them with a Roman army in 70 AD. Since then, they've been in the diaspora all around the world. They're not to re-enter. Come 1948, right? Who gave birth to the state of Israel? The same Britain.
Rothschilds.
And the same America, which I was telling you was created for a particular purpose, right? And they got in politically, not religiously, politically, because the spiritual home of Christianity is in Palestine. Rome is the empire, right? That's why the language of empire now, right? Might makes right. So the empire, not Christianity, the real Christianity, not the Santa Claus Christianity of the West, right? The language of empire must trounce the original Christianity. Okay. So this entity of Israel, which is the imposter, right? Which is the imposter. Is this faith and righteous conduct? Number one, they're Zionists. They don't even believe in Judaism. The real Jews know you can't go back until the Messiah takes you back. That's the Jewish teaching, because they rejected Jesus' ancestors. May his blood be upon our descendants, remember? They've rejected him. They're waiting for the Messiah to bring them to the Holy Land. They know this is an imposter. And they know it violates Judaism. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, bear false witness by all the lies in the Western media, right? Because you're seeing a Euro-Jewish alliance here, okay? It's counterfeit Christianity. Warned about this time and time and time again. So this entity, faith and righteous conduct, is it racism, oppression, awesome wickedness and oppression, deceit, murder, war crimes? Is that faith and righteous conduct? You are dealing with an imposter. You're dealing with Gog and Magog, who is setting up the return of the Antichrist. I yield.
It's interesting that you say that, because in that video they talk about that, and I did a little bit of, she mentioned somewhere where Satan's little return comes in, and some people are saying that happened in 1772, 1776, with the birth of America, coincidentally. No, 1776 was their war over there. It was birth of here, wasn't it? 1776. So anyway, Satan's little return, and apparently that happens after 1,000 years of, I don't know. I'm not religious, but I
The
did
millennial reign is what
research
you're
about this.
referring to.
And
But
you're
that's
right,
going to
Ray. It
depend.
depends on which Bible you believe. I mean, apparently now
It
there's the
does.
Ethiopian Bible out
It
there, which is
does.
a very different Bible again. But I do agree with you about the current Israelites. And what's telling about that is that there was this massive protest in New York just in the last couple of days with all these Jewish people. And I forget, I want to say 2,000, but it could be more.
20,000.
20,000.
I've got the video. I've downloaded it before they took it down.
20,000 Jewish people in New York protesting against Israel.
Because
Against
you'll never
Israel.
see it on TV because, again,
Yes,
Australia, just like America, were created for a particular purpose.
we are totally run in this
This
country by the Zionists.
whole thing that I've been
Totally
saying
run.
for 30 something years, that you cannot, if you've got evangelicals in the US, right, calling for support of Israel, this genocidal state that rejects the Messiah, you're arming Christ killers to kill your fellow Christians. So your kinship in Christ doesn't shield you.
Yeah.
Herein lies the difference between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Judaism has a brotherhood. Wherever you go worldwide, you're my brother. Islam has the same. Well, you are my brother. Christianity, that can't happen. You can't have a Christian from America rock up to a Christian in France that they don't know and spend the night there. Now, this is not by design. This is all by design.
Yeah.
This is an imposter. This is why I've always said, right? I even said this to my friend the other day. I said, now look at these people. They're not even Christians, but look at these Palestinians. They're Islamic, which is much closer to Eastern Christianity. Western Christianity is to Eastern Christianity. Food for thought. You heard correctly, right? I said, look at these people. The women are covered. If you're in America, they will force you to be uncovered by force in a land of freedom. No, you will do this, right? Look how they're always praying and remembering that there is one God. Now comparing the United States of America, where they're boozing up and the people are going out on the streets and even making love in the streets. Which one is following the God of Abraham and which one is following Lucifer? I said, turn off that idiot box in the corner of your lounge room. It's assaulting your bloody intelligence. Think, rub two brain cells together. You're being conned.
One thing I just want to ask you there, and I know that this is not a religious chat channel, but you said, okay, so you've got a point with Western countries forcing women to not wear the hijab. What about in countries where they're forced to wear the hijab, whether they want to or not?
Yeah,
Is that
that's not
just as bad?
It's a good point, but that wasn't my point. My point was which one they're doing that out of worship for the creator. My point is that they're saying freedom, 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 right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but yeah, all right.
My
We'll have the
point,
other discussion another day on your
yeah,
other
good.
webinar.
So my point was,
Don't egg him on, Sarah.
no. My point was to see that which is the one that is actually worshiping God, but the media's demonizing and making them out to be, all sorts of horrible things, and which one is not doing it and is engaged in war crimes but made out to be good. In other words, I'm saying the appearance and reality, the inversion that bad is good,
Yeah,
good is bad. That was my point.
the media is not. The media will absolutely spin things because we know the media is CIA run. We know it's Mockingbird media. We know
But people believe it. They believe it.
well.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest. I've seen in other freedom groups, right? And freedom movements, right? I've had to take myself off some of the Facebook and Telegram channels because the thing is, people claim, yeah, where coronavirus is concerned, where GovCo is concerned, where fuel's concerned, they can see the con job.
Mm.
They can't see the other con job. Just bring up one of another 100 things you can bring.
Mm.
They have a coronary. That's my
Yeah.
point. I yield.
No, I
Now,
just think the media lies. I think that's just the best way to go.
now
Media lies.
we better slow
Wrap
this
it up.
debate down a bit. Now,
No,
I have
such a me and Sarah love each other.
Yeah, we do.
I know, because I've got
The
to butt in because
discussion. Hey, guys, this is a discussion, not a debate. This is how people discuss.
It
They
is.
don't
that
discuss with boxing gloves. They
exactly right.
discuss
But
the
we're
way
running,
we're doing it on the pepper files.
but we're running out of time. I do have a question. Look, I have great respect for your knowledge, Ray. I really do, and a lot of that stuff is way over the top of my head. And I listen with great interest. But look, you told me at the start they found a bit of bread
Yeah.
in all that rubble. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
How
sorry,
did they
mate.
find the bread?
How
They did.
come the bread? Like, actually, when you think of it, after all that bombing, you would think that bread would have been toast.
Exactly.
But how did they? And I'm not like I really do have great respect, Ray. But how did they like identify this piece of bread as being the piece of bread?
Well, it was consecrated, so the priest had blessed it. Because if you're Catholic, and like I was saying, if you're Catholic, if you're not Catholic, then they don't believe in transubstantiation. But once the priest blesses it, it becomes consecrated. It actually turns into the body of Christ, just like the wine turns into the blood of Christ. Speaking of which, my friend's wedding here on Western Australia 25 years ago, the wine he got for the mass at his wedding was from Cana, from Palestine, from the city where Jesus turned the first water into wine, which spun me out big time. I can say that I actually got wine from Cana. Here on Western Australia, so you.
Look at Sarah getting wound up again, ready to go.
No,
Go on.
I want to go back to the bread though. So
Oh.
did they actually like go and excavate where the church had been bombed and find a little pile of bread? Is that what happened there?
It was underneath the rubble where the church was.
Right. In a strong box? I'm just wondering how it survived.
It just did. Maybe it was not the power of Aquarius. Maybe it was the one God creator. Perhaps.
See, this is the thing. I have trouble, and I always have had trouble with this body of mine and drink my blood, eat my body. Like, yuck. Just yuck. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I know, like I said, I totally get it. My friend's worse than you. Dealing with you is like a Sunday school picnic. But anyway, look, what can I say? It's easy because I'm sitting here in Perth, right? If I were in the middle of a war zone, I'm sure I would be, totally different. But what can I say? What's the alternative? I can either believe in a God that's like, okay, it's your show and you made me, okay, so whatever, versus what's the alternative for me? So it's like,
I
that's it. He's got his reasons. He can do what he likes because he can give life and take life. All I am is just and I'm going to use the Arabic word here. I'm just an Abdul. So whenever you hear the word Abdul, all it means is slave, right? I'm just a slave of God. So that's it.
I don't know. See, I think and I know we'll get off the call, Wayne. I know. But the
Sorry,
thing,
Wayne. I owe you another beer for this.
No, honestly,
Two
I
beers.
don't want to leave. But
2 beers.
I've got a
make
friend.
it 3.
I've got a friend, and she's very what I'd call gaudy, and that's fine. I don't have a problem. We get along fine. But I have questions, obviously. And I said to her one day, I don't disbelieve necessarily the whole nailing on the cross and whatever else. I don't disbelieve that. I have my own theories as to whether whoever was nailed on the cross died. I think, there's other stories around that, went into a coma, took 3 days to recover, and then scarpered. Like,
Then you're three
fair
quarters
enough.
of the way. Then you're 3/4 of the way to being a Muslim. But anyway, go ahead.
Right.
Because remember, they don't believe in the resurrection because they don't
So,
believe he was crucified in the first place.
but the thing is, what if that is just this much of a picture that's this big? What if this Jesus character here and maybe God over here, and just trust me, I've read a novelized version of the Old Testament, and oh my God, why would anyone follow that God? Like, why? Because totally,
Point. Good point. The
basically, he
Old
was
Testament
clearly
is
a baby
wider than
Rothschild in
the
the
now.
making.
Why isn't that under greater scrutiny? Herein lies appearance and reality. Sorry.
So, Old Testament, Rothschilds in training, clearly. Um, But I don't even really kind of go for all of that stuff. I think it's a nice story, but I mean, Muslims have got a really nice story, and presumably Palestinian, um, Jewish people have got a nice story. Buddhists have got a nice story. So who's to say which story's right? Would it not be easier to say that maybe there's some overlord god that's got all of these subsidiary gods out there recruiting? Because we know that we're a loosh farm.
That's
Maybe
paradox.
there's an
Subcontract.
overlord god, and
That's
maybe he's a fake god, and maybe the true creator is out there going, will you guys wake up and look at the fraud?
Are you saying that God subbied some of his work out?
Hell yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying.
He could have made us perfect. He could have made us all one religion. But what I'm saying is that it's a good point. I don't blame you. But I'm saying that's the age-old thing asked from day dot, which is why idolatry was invented in the first place, right? Instead of, us created in the image of God, we create God in our image because we can't understand a God that works like that. Just very quickly, what you could do, it's just a suggestion. You've read part 1, the Old Testament. Why don't you read part 2, the New Testament, and read part 3, the Quran, and then you've done the trifecta. Maybe part 3 answers the questions to part 2 and 1. I shouldn't be doing this, sorry, God. But anyway, I'm just saying that perhaps that's food for thought.
I'm not sure that sorry's going to cut it. Listen, I'm gonna.
Book. This is the book. It was so hard not to throw it across the room after I read the Old Testament part. I was like, this guy is just a weirdo who likes pulling wings off flies, and he should be sent to the corner and sent to a psychotherapist.
There
Seriously.
you go. And you heard it here first on the Pepper Files. I'm going to hit the stop record button, and we'll see what happens after I do that.